It's my pleasure. It's good to
anything with cauliflower. I love. It's a very underused vegetable, in my opinion.
It is
like zucchini. Yep. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today is Dr. Colin Zhu, and he is not only a chef, but he's also a doctor. He's known as the Chef Doc. He has a wonderful podcast. He has an upcoming summit, and today he is going to make a delicious recipe. He's going to create a vegan ceviche using one of my favorite vegetables, cauliflower. Please welcome Dr. Zhu. It's so nice to have you on.
Hello. How's it going?
That's great. So today you don't have scrubs on. You actually have a chef coat on.
Yes. I have my old one that I'm wearing right now. So yeah.
So you were on the Truth About Weight Loss Summit. That's actually where we met. You did a fantastic presentation. And I don't know if I asked you this, but there's a saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg? In your case, what came first, the doctor or the chef?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The doctor came first. I went to, medical school first, and then graduated a little bit off cycle. So I had some time to play with. And I just said to myself, what am I going to do? And I don't know if a lot of your medical colleagues, would share this with you, AJ, is, we weren't really given a lot of nutritional / lifestyle related curricula in our training. And I found it to be a huge, deficit and gap in my education, especially, being a family medicine practitioner. We see a lot of patients that are chronically ill. And so I just felt like, I needed to do more. And so I enrolled myself in culinary school in Manhattan, in the Natural Gourmet Institute, which is a very pioneering culinary school back in the day in the 70s. And, they come from a health supportive plant-based, angle. And after that, I went into residency, and I basically used the education to publicly speak in person when we didn't have COVID. And then I demonstrated and held workshops, and mostly for healthcare professionals. Because I really enjoy teaching the teacher. And so, kind of like, creating that ripple effect so they can go out and teach their community members. So that's important to me.
I think it's wonderful because you're one of, actually, believe it or not, many doctors now that have gone or are going to medical school, not medical school. Hopefully all the doctors went to medical school, culinary school.
Yes, definitely. I think it's one of those educations where more and more doctors, especially who are more immersed in a lifestyle medicine movement, culinary medicine movement, to really gain that extra, nutritional and / lifestyle related curricula. And anywhere from, American College of Lifestyle Medicine for continuing education, to culinary school, to, all these great programs, chef coaching, whatever they can get their hands on. And honestly, it's very nice to have more and more colleagues, because we need help. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're going to be approaching 10 billion by 2050. We're not having, more renewable land. A lot of our food sources are being tested. And so we need a lot of help, to be able to, help and feed, quote unquote, the population at large. So.
Are you more comfortable in scrubs or a chef coat? And what was more fun, medical school or culinary school?
Definitely culinary school, which is interesting because I think medically and culinary, they have a very similar hierarchy, to be able to go from the bottom to the top. And it's a lot of hustle and bustle. The only difference is that in the kitchen, you have the heat to deal with, you know what I'm saying? So whereas, medical school, you have the heat from pressure and making sure you can cater to your patients and, be able to make sure that things are done. So.
You mentioned that you didn't learn much about nutrition in medical school. Am I correct that I heard someone say that not only don't doctors learn very much in the way of nutrition, but what they do learn isn't even required learning for when they take the boards?
Yeah, so the most recent surveys back in 2010 only required a nutrition. They surveyed a whole bunch of medical schools, and what came back was about 25% of them actually required a nutritional course within their entire curricula. To give you an idea, a lot of what we learn is how drugs work, so pharmacology, and how do disease processes actually come about. So that's, pathology. And I'll very, least amount in terms of how do we keep our bodies well? How do we maintain our physical bodies? And how do we talk about prevention? I was fortunate enough where, I didn't come from a long line of medical doctors. My mother is a Chinese medical physician. So she practices traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So it's a very 180 degrees from an angle of, how do we, prevent things from happening? How do we maintain our wellness? And so having that, growing up and, having that modeled my behavior and modeled, motivating me to go into medicine, that really helped me a lot, to not just look at things when things have already arrived, but, how do we prevent things? And, the way we're looking at Americans and, the younger generations getting more and more chronically sick, it's very, very important, not just because we have, a virus that's going around the world. We have to be able to do our due diligence to prevent as many things as possible.
That's so interesting that your mom's a Chinese medical doctor, because I see one here in the desert. She's Chinese doctor and a medical doctor. She did both, and she calls it East-West medicine. And I find it so interesting that these things that have been stood the test over time, like acupuncture, these are considered alternative medicine. It seems to me that allopathic medicine should be the alternative medicine.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Chinese medicine, it goes back like at least 2,000 to 3,000 years. And Western medicine goes far back as around 200 years. And, it's the difference is that, Western medicine really relies a lot on research, evidence-based medical literature, being able to whittle things down to singular components. That's why nutritional science is a very evolving field. And, if you think about it, it's like, a lot of things are it's in its whole form, right? We talk a lot about whole foods, plant-based. I know you do, Chef AJ. And, a lot of, that synergy, between the vitamins and minerals and the phytonutrients and the fiber that it's, so rich in whole foods. When you reduce it down to singular components, yeah, you're able to discern whether some things work or not, but it's really the synergy, because we're not, we are a total body component, our body is the entire system. We're not just a liver and a kidney and a heart, you know what I'm saying? So I think Chinese medicine is very hard to kind of test and research because it's based on completely different theories. So so it is unfortunate, but the thing is that, it is more, a lot of research are coming out and, a lot of people are using it. So we have a lot of doctors that are integrative. So.
Right. And it seems like there is more interest now in nutrition in medical school. There's actually some medical schools that have a culinary medicine program where they're actually teaching the future doctors culinary skills.
Yeah, definitely. Dr. Timothy Harlan, he's still, how do you say it? He pioneers the culinary medicine center in Tulane University. And I think it's the first teaching kitchen out of a medical school. And, my own medical school alma mater, I'm very happy to say they started a culinary medicine, rotation, and so you have a lot of programs, up and coming, more and more evolving. And it's the new wave, you know what I'm saying? Because we really have to go back to the basics and being able to help ourselves from the ground up.
Right. Well, you wear a lot of hats, Dr. Zhu, not just a chef hat and a doctor's hat, but you're a podcaster too. You have a wonderful podcast. As a matter of fact, that's how I found out about you, because I was researching another doctor to have on the summit and I found her on your summit and I said, I got to get this guy as well.
Yeah, our mutual friend, Dr. Uma Naidu, she's a lovely individual. And so I've been podcasting since 2019, so almost 2 years now. I had to, kind of pause it because, I'm putting out a virtual summit, but basically the podcasting was, happened by happenstance. It's kind of, I really enjoy, I don't know about you, Chef AJ, but I really like serendipity. And so a doctor doesn't really go in thinking like he's going to write a book or host a podcast, and they just kind of happen serendipitously. And I really enjoy conversations, similar to like you and me, and really deriving the stories about how people, get into what they get into, what they're passionate in, what their expertise in, and really distill it into a very casual and conversational style. And and just share it with people, because I think a lot of light bulb moments happen, and it's really those light bulb and aha moments that really get people inspired and motivated. And that's really what I really wanted to share with people, because that happened for me. So I just wanted to share that for people.
Right. And like you, Dr. Naidu also went to culinary school.
Yeah, yeah. She has a huge Indian cuisine background, so she's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have tell us a little bit about the summit you have coming up.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the summit coming up was really birthed, late summer, early fall of last year. And so, I wrote my book first, which really concentrated on the concepts of thriving. The podcast is also the same, but we also talked about emotional resilience and also talked about plant-powered living. And so the virtual summit is kind of like an extension of that. And so I said to myself, the world's in a pandemic, people are really suffering. Mental health is really up in the rise. And I wanted to do more. What can I do more to impact people? What can I do more to inspire people? And so, as a healthcare professionals, we are expected to learn as much as possible. And that includes going to medical conferences and, things like that. And I also really enjoyed, going to personal development conferences. And so over 10 years, I gathered what I liked and what I didn't like. And I decided, I'm going to put on my own virtual summit, to do that. And so we're doing just that. It's coming out next week on May the 5th. And, it's very unique because it combines elements of a virtual summit, but also combines elements of a masterclass workshop series where you're learning from over 50 speakers. Chef AJ is, humbly, on it as well. And we talk things about how to create a thriving mindset. So in order to do that, I came up with 5 pillars: food as medicine, functional fitness or movement, relationships, community, and resilience. And so we have over 50 hours. There's going to be, tests and quizzes and workbooks, and there's going to be a private, Facebook community. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful endeavor. And what I wanted to do is, people come away with it. I wanted to give them, 3 things: inspiration, education, and practical tools on learning how to thrive. And so that's our goal, and that's our mission statement with it.
Can you get CEUs for your summit?
We are working with an accreditation body with it. So that hasn't been through its final approval yet. But yeah, we are anticipating continuing medical education and also continuing nursing education as well.
Well, I know this because I've interviewed you before, but you might be new to some of our audience. What is your personal story with having adopted a plant-based diet?
So my personal story is I've been very, very, humbled and grateful for both of my parents to cook. So I come from a Chinese background, first generation Chinese American born. And both my parents are from Southern China. And typically, growing up, we, in and out of the house, they both cooked traditional Chinese meals. And over time, for those who are not, fully, aware of Chinese cuisines, it is way more than Panda Express and, all these other, MSG filled, laded meals that you would get, right next to, a pizza, in a strip mall. And basically, it's very balanced, a lot of veggies, a lot of fruits, a lot of whole grains, a lot of, meats and seafood and things like that, because the Chinese philosophy is very balanced, a lot of things in harmony, very yin and yang, right? That's where, the concepts come from. And so over time, I didn't start off plant-based, but we start off, eating a very balanced meal. So I went to plant-based around 7 years ago, actually, after my first marathon in New York City. And when I was training for it, that's when I was researching what a whole foods plant-based, was going to do for my body, and started researching that with also these athletes that, recovered, performed. And so, I found that I was, getting a lot of stiff joints, back pain, knee pain, a lot of bloating issues. And everyone was different. And for me, when I converted over to a whole foods plant-based, I noticed that my recovery was better, and my performance was a little bit better, and having gone into the science as deep as I did, I realized that, I want to be able to practice what I preach. I really believe in leading by example and really being a role model for people. And so I converted over, right? And then I started teaching my patients. And then little by little, my patients started losing weight, their numbers were dropping, and they just felt better. My favorite comments were, their energy was getting better, and they didn't realize how, flavorful or, what they could cook and, things like that. So it was really nice to have these conversations with them. But yeah, that's my story.
When you say you come from a Chinese background, how is it in China in terms of obesity rates, and how much processed food do they eat compared to the United States? Do they drink a lot of soda? What's it like there now?
Yeah, so basically, since the 70s, when I believe it was Nixon around, that's when a lot of tourism opened up. And so traditionally, we're mostly a land of agriculture. A lot of majority of China is agricultural land. And so you have plentiful fruits and vegetables. And, over time, when globalization hit hard for China and that, that tourism happened, you start to find more Western diets being infiltrated into the country. So what ends up happening is that you start seeing obesity rates going up, you start seeing diabetes rates going up, you start seeing, cancer rates going up. And, traditionally they didn't, see this, what I'm saying? So it's, and the thing is that the Chinese, similar to a lot of other countries that idolize America and American culture, they just want to go with the trend, right? With what's popular, right? But what's popular and going with the trend not necessarily means it's the most healthy or healthful for your overall well-being. And so, you still have a lot of traditional meals there, still very, very balanced. But you do see a lot of these chronic diseases started to rise up. And so, it's important to be able to hit home the education, the public health awareness. And as bad as COVID is right now, you have upwards of 600 to 700,000 people that pass away from heart disease alone, which is our number one killer in America. So those numbers are staggering. But a lot of patients, a lot of people don't really see that because, COVID, if you get COVID, for example, you get hit hard, pretty quickly. Whereas heart disease and cancer, it's more of a slow growing, process. So, it's information and good information and good education that really is needed to be able to, face, this chronic disease epidemic.
Wow. Did you ever, I don't want to say convince, but influence maybe anyone in your family to do a plant-based diet? You mentioned your mom was a doctor.
Yeah, so my mom, is, mostly plant-based. My father is a little bit harder to convince. Traditional Asian men are stubborn in some ways, and but, the good part is that he, cooks all of his meals. For our family, we're very, very low process. We don't really eat out a lot, and we do a lot of cooking from home. So when I teach my patients, it's all about, wherever you start, start from cooking from your kitchen first, because, you know what's going into your food. You're not outsourcing, food to someone else that is not looking after your health. They're looking after the bottom line, so, it's important to start from the kitchen, and we just, we want to meet people where they are. So.
Right. I heard you on somebody else's podcast. I can't remember what it was called now. And you mentioned it's not about learning recipes. It's about learning preparation techniques.
Yes. I think the cooking process, the most challenging for people is preparing. So the meal prep, right? So I actually, did a small course on how to get started on a whole foods plant-based lifestyle. And I go into, how do you prep up your pantry? How do you prep up, your refrigerator, your freezer? How do you stock, your herbs and spices? And I think that the more prepared you are, the more the more easy for you to kind of get, into it, right? And I think that people, they consider it too much work if it's too difficult, right? And so, and then we also talk about, repurposing, and we talk about batch cooking and things like that. So it's really the meal prep, the cooking is really the more enjoyable and the, least amount of time put into the cooking process for people when I teach.
Yeah, that's great. In what is the amount of meat they consume in traditional Chinese cuisine? I mean, is it more than Americans now? I mean, or traditionally, I've always heard it was a rice-based diet, but has the amount of meat increased over the last several years?
I wouldn't say it probably increased. It probably increased in terms of more of the processing because of globalization. You have a lot of fast foods, you have a lot of takeouts and delivery services. I don't know, how the food delivery is, now, with COVID, but I would say the process, the amount of processed foods have definitely increased, over time. In terms of meats, traditionally, we cook everything. So I don't think, that has increased. I think it's more the processing of foods in terms of takeout, because they really enjoy, attending these, these fast food joints. They eat out a lot at night, because that's where a lot of social gatherings happen, over time. So.
But still, even with meat eating, there are so many vegetables in
Yeah,
Asian cuisine in general.
it really
That's
is.
what I love about it. They even kids eat vegetables.
Yeah. I mean, rice, millet are, whole grains that they would eat. I don't think quinoa is part of their diet. And, it's just plentiful, very, very different types of vegetables. Like even here, I'm in LA, I would have to go to an Asian market just to find, the stuff that I need in order to create, a specific dish. And, like I said, it's mostly an agricultural country. So, they have food markets that are readily available, at their disposal. So it's not hard for them to, cook. So.
Right. It's why when people say rice is fattening, I'm like, all the billions of Asians that have eaten white rice for years, they have the lowest obesity rate in the world.
Right. Because the thing is that they eat real food that accompanies, rice. And the thing is that, when rice traditionally, so we eat mostly family style. So basically, we take from the middle and we use rice to kind of balance out the sometimes heavier flavors of the dishes in between. So it acts as a heavy flavor dampening type of dish. So it kind of, balances out everything there. And you just eat a lot of real food. And because of, the fiber content that's in, the vegetables that they cook, it satiates us, quicker. So in essence, even though white rice is a processed food in overall, it's they eat it, not too much, what I'm saying? So.
Well, I love rice and I love white rice, and I cannot lie, and I'm not afraid to eat it. And so many people are afraid to eat rice now because of arsenic.
Right. Exactly. So arsenic is a huge issue, typically used to kind of deter, rats, because of the storage in warehouses and things like that. So you got to be very careful. You're able to remove arsenic just from, the washing. So making sure that you wash and rinse at least 5 times over, it's huge in terms of getting, that process down.
Nice. So what you're using today is cauliflower, which is interesting because I've seen people actually make rice out of cauliflower.
Yeah, that is an interesting trend, isn't that? So what we have today is a cauliflower ceviche. So basically, I think you're going to share the recipe with everyone. So you take a medium size like cauliflower like this, and traditionally ceviche, for those of you who are not aware, it's a Hispanic dish, traditional Hispanic dish that's actually made out of seafood first. And it's a very popular dish, out of Mexico, Central, South America. And it's actually a dish that is using citrus acid from mostly limes to be able to cook down, quote unquote, cook down the food. And basically it's marinated for at least a few hours, typically with a type of white fish. But for this recipe, we're substituting the white fish for cauliflower. And for the recipe that I shared with you guys, you take a medium head of cauliflower, and basically what you do is that you have to take a pot of boiling water, okay? And let me try to share. Give me 1 second. So what you want to do is are you able to see that, Chef AJ?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I can see your knife and your cutting board.
Yeah, so basically what you want to do is cut in all the stuff into finely chop into like little pieces about like that, like a small dice, medium dice. So that's what I'm going to do as I'm going to talk to you. So basically what you do is, so in the first part of the recipe, what we're doing is that you're actually, to cook this down even more, the recipe calls for to take a pot of boiling water, okay? And then you're going to put it into an ice bath. Okay, so I've already done that for this just to kind of, expedite time for the demonstration. But, at home, what you want to do is take a pot of boiling water, bring it up to boil, and then you just take this whole head of the cauliflower, and then, you just dunk it in there. Okay, 3 to 5 minutes. All right. And then from there, you take it out and put it into an ice bath. And an ice bath, what it does is that it's called a blanch and shock technique. And from that technique, what you're doing is that you're doing multiple things. You're stopping the cooking process because it's still heated, right? After you take something out from the boiling water, it's still cooking, essentially. So the ice bath stops it. Okay. It actually preserves the color and enhances the color, which is really, really nice. And it also enhances the flavor as well. So it's hard to see with a cauliflower, but typically when you blanch and shock, green vegetables, you'll be able to see the colors, come up a lot more. You know what I'm saying? So from there, an ice bath is basically a pot, okay? You fill it up to water and you put a lot of ice into it, and then you take the cauliflower and you dunk it in there, okay? So after like 3 to 5 minutes, you put it in there, okay? And then you take it out, and this is what you have. So basically what I'm doing is that I'm just cutting it up and roughly chop it into smaller pieces, okay? And then I'm going to transfer it to a tub where I'm going to mix it with my other veggies in a moment. I really enjoy cauliflower, and I don't know how much cauliflower you talk on your show, Chef AJ, but cauliflower, they has a component called sulforaphane. And it's a great nutrient that helps to fight breast cancer cells, helps decrease the risk of colon cancer. There's research where they use cauliflower to help with autism, which is great. And then also when it has fiber, when it has other vitamins and folic acid, what it does is that it decreases the risk of forming gout, which is another great component of cauliflower. And cauliflower is part of the cruciferous vegetable category, which I'm sure a lot of your members have would know with broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cabbage and, all these great vegetables. So What has been your favorite recipe to make with cauliflower, Chef AJ?
Oh my gosh, I have a soup. Well, I think it's what I made on your summit, the cauliflower bisque.
Yeah, yeah. It was a great one.
So Dr. Zeus, Sid says, in a pinch, is it possible to use frozen riced cauliflower for this recipe?
You can. You would have to kind of thaw it out. Because it will have a lot of water with it. So in a pinch, yes. So to answer your question.
And a lot of people are asking where you practice and if you do telemedicine.
So right now I'm going to be joining a telehealth group called Plant-Based Telehealth. So that'll be coming in the next a month or two. So it's with a great group, a handful of docs that's led by Dr. Lori Marbus. So you can anticipate finding me there in the next month or two.
That sounds great.
So I'm going to put these guys aside, and then the next part of the recipe, we're going to start dicing up our Roma tomatoes.
So cauliflower is a cruciferous vegetable, and a lot of people don't know that the green part is also edible.
Yes, yes. The green part contains a lot of fiber. If you take one head, medium head of cauliflower, it takes around I think 12 grams of fiber, and a lot of Americans, I think the latest statistics is 3% of Americans are actually sufficient with fiber. And fiber is really, a type of nutrient that is really not really talked about, but really is necessary because fiber, contains soluble and insoluble fiber. It helps to produce short chain fatty acids. And, I don't know how much of the microbiome is talked about, but the gut health is really, really important. For those of you who don't know, there's around 39 trillion microorganisms that make up the microbiome, right? And make up, us as, the human body. So we're actually one gigantic, microorganism that's just walking around, that's, as opposed to cells. So basically, after you chop up the tomatoes, we're going to work on the jalapeños. Okay. And, it depends if your spice level, how much you like the spicy, but yeah, 12 grams and a head of one medium head of fiber. And average American, they consume about 15 grams. So just to put it into perspective on, the amount of fiber that we don't really get, in terms of, in our diet. And, going back to the short chain fatty acids, what's helpful is that, it helps to lower cholesterol. It helps to satiate us. It reduces heart disease. And it's, super, super, super important. Okay. A lot of plant-based experts, the RDA recommendations is to have upwards of about 30. And a lot of other plant-based experts, they want you to have, probably more than 30 going on to 40. So that's for me, what I like to do is I like to, blend, make like a huge superfood smoothie in the morning. So it's not, it takes the guesswork out, you know what I'm saying? To be able to include as much fiber as possible. So the next thing, so we have a jalapeno in there. We have, tomatoes in there. The next thing we're going to do is a red onion. Okay.
Sid wants to know if you left the seeds in the pepper.
The seeds I did leave. I like to have it a little bit spicy. So it depends on the individual. You could, take a spoon and take out the actual seeds, so it's less spicy. Everyone's spiciness profile is going to be different. So it just depends on what you're going to be able to tolerate. So I personally left mine. You're more than welcome to take yours away.
Are you working on a cookbook by any chance?
That is in the works in the future. So I'm actually going to write my second book off of the summit. So that's going to be, that's my next venture. And then after that, I'll start with, a cookbook. So a lot of people has asked me that over the years. So.
Do you have a working title for it?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a working title?
The second book is going to be called The Thrive Formula, based off of the virtual summit. And so it's going to be based off of, the concepts of the pillars. I don't have a working title for the cookbook yet, so very, very soon.
Where can we get your first book?
First book is going to be, you can go to my website, or you can go on Amazon. That's where you can find it. It's called Thrive Medicine. That's where it's going to be.
I just found it, and it's an Audible. I can listen to it.
Oh, yeah. I narrated it as well, so. Okay, so after that, we have Persian cucumbers. So the recipe calls for 3. I love these guys. They contain a lot of water, very, very crunchy. Typically use, I like to use them in my ceviche, but it's great for salads. They just pack a lot of good stuff. So just removing the heads and tails.
I narrated my book too, and also The Pleasure Trap. Which recording studio did you use in LA?
I'm sorry?
Which recording studio did you record at?
Oh, I didn't. So my first book was a self-published book. And so in terms of the audiobook, you may be surprised, but I actually I was in New Jersey at the time. I'm originally from New Jersey. And, what happened with that was I made my own recording studio, and I actually recorded the book out of my parents' walk-in closet.
That's hilarious.
So a lot of people, I don't know a lot of people who are, audiophiles, but basically a closet is actually a great place to record because the sound actually a lot of extraneous sounds are absorbed, through the clothes, you know what I'm saying? So, I did a lot of it DIY. So.
Oh, that's great. Kathleen wants to know what you do with your scraps. Do you compost them? Do you make broth?
I compost them. LA has a great composting center here. So I compost them, and sometimes I'll do the scraps to make, broth, which could be used for soups and things like that. So from here, basically we're going to do 2 avocados. Okay. So
Karen says she loves your knife skills.
Oh, thanks. They could always be better, right, Chef AJ? I think the knife skills is literally the first thing that they really drill you in school no matter where you are, you know what I'm saying? So, and it's very, very important. And it's interesting because like a knife is like the only tool that a chef carries around, like when they use their own kitchen or go somewhere else, it's really the knife set. It's basically where, something that they travel to. So it's something that is near and dear for us. For a doctor is kind of like, the stethoscope, you know what I'm saying? So
they teach you knife skills the first day of culinary school?
They teach orientation first. They teach kitchen orientation, knowing where everything is. And then I think knife skills was probably a few weeks.
What did they teach the first day of medical school?
The first day of medical school, that's a good one. They actually taught terminology first, medical terminology. Because, I'm sure, for a lot of people, medicine is like a foreign language, you know what I'm saying? So it's, a part of practicing good medicine is really deciphering the lingo and making it digestible for people to understand. Education is very important to me, and relaying that is also super, super important. So, I need to be able, part of my job is needing to be able to, understand a material and then making that translatable for patients and people alike, so they can understand, because at the end of the day, it's really about, how do you make your decisions for your healthcare? It has to be based off of how well you are informed, right? So the better you are informed, the better decision making, you can do, for your health and overall well-being. So I took it upon myself to really, really make sure I was good at that, making sure that my patients, knew what they were getting into, their pros and cons, risk and benefits, yada, yada. So that's important to me.
Lauren says, where's the compost center in LA?
You can literally just Google LA compost, and there's a huge composting center that is all over the county. I forget what the actual website is called, but I think it's LA Compost, to be honest. It's as simple as that. So right now, what they do, the last time I checked, was you kind of do like a drive-by. So you just drive by, drop off the compost to them, and then they just take it, which is pretty cool.
And Sid says, did you say that this was a Mexican dish?
It's a Mexican / South American / Central American. So they have different versions of this depending on where you go. Americans, we have a lot of Mexican populations here. So, that's brought over here. But yeah, it's different. It's depending on which way you go. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so one of the last few parts is lines. So for this, this is a big dish. So typically I like to serve this before COVID for like a dinner party or, something like that. And, you need a lot of limes to be able to cook this down. So I would, depending on the dish, I just use this bowl, but you want something to be like maybe a little bit lower, right? To have more surface area, okay? But I just chose this for now. You don't have to use this. And basically what you want to do is take 6 to 7 limes and be able to juice them, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these guys up. And we're going to juice them. AJ, do you do any like infused like waters or refreshments and stuff like that? How do you stay cool in the desert?
Oh, I mean, I guess I do I have this little thing that my friend Sharon McRae got me where you can put like something on the bottom, like mint or blackberries, and then you put the water in and then the solids stay on the bottom, but the water becomes like spa water.
Yeah, it's great.
Cucumbers are great in water.
Oh, I love cucumbers. My favorite are cucumbers, limes, and mint. So you basically, you just get, a little like a juicer like this, and you just basically minimally 6 limes, so.
You could tell you're a real chef. You do everything from scratch. No bottled lime juice, no prepackaged cauliflower.
Oh no, yeah, come on now. I'm sure you guys talk a lot about preservatives, but yeah, you want to try to do everything from scratch as much as possible. And to be honest, it's like, just go and have fun, do this with your significant other, do this with your kids. And that's the whole point of it, because it's not just cooking a good meal, but you want to be able to share it. You want to be able to, you want to be able to just share that process, because food is such a universal language in so many countries and cultures. And we have our own interpretations and our viewpoints about it. But, it's super important, what I'm saying? So. And what you can do with the pulp, if you don't want to get rid of it, is that you can also put that into the ceviche as well. It's good to have a good, little manual juicer. Will you guys have a Mother's Day special?
Well, we don't have a Mother's Day special, but next week we have an amazing lineup, because it's my 500th episode of Chef AJ Live. So on Wednesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, we're doing 2 giveaways. We have 2 shows that day, and Nutrimilk has generously offered to give away a machine on each episode. And the machines are like $500, and they make plant milk with 0 waste. It can also double as a food processor, blender, or an ice cream machine. So you can win, Dr. Zoo. You just have to be watching live, but you have to be watching from YouTube. We can't help you on Facebook because we can't see your comments if you're watching.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be make sure that share it with people. So, because, you shared a great recipe using that device, and it's really cool. It's almost like it's like a combination of a blender, a food processor. You can do so much with it. So yeah, basically with this, I know this is a little bit tedious to watch me do this, but it's after you do this, what you do is that you want to let the juice just kind of marinate everything for at least 30 minutes. If you want maximum flavor, I would, put it into the fridge and let it marinate for at least 2 hours, is what I would do, so.
So which kind, ceviche, when they traditionally serve it, are they using a particular kind of fish?
Yeah, so they could do it with cod. They could do it. Sometimes they use tilapia. So a lot of days, I don't know. There's a lot of oh, hold on, give me 1 second. Let's do this. So basically, as I'm doing it, I'm just pouring it into it like this. Okay. So the reason why I said, to have like a lower base type of dish is so like when the acid is here, so it falls to the bottom. So when you have something that's a little bit lower, then you could spread it out, so it's contacting everything else. Okay. But yeah, sometimes it's with tilapia, sometimes it's with cod. Every country has, something different. So yeah. So to kind of round it out, what you want to do is, so, because Chef AJ is, salt-free, we've substituted it with 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And so we're gonna, have that to kind of up the flavor profile as well. So that's 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And then I like freshly ground pepper, to add as well.
That looks beautiful. Almost looks like a 7-layer dip.
Yeah. And then also red chili flakes. I like mine spicy, so it just depends on your heat level. You know what I'm saying? And then also, you want to be able to, so that's what it looks like. And then you want to finish it out by putting cilantro. So to kind of, dress it like this. All right. So I think that's the final product. And then this whole thing goes into the fridge for 30 to 2 hours, depending on, how long you want to marinate it for. Minimally 30 minutes, 2 hours for maximum flavor. But yeah, that's basically what it looks like.
Wow, would that be 1 serving for me?
Oh no! If you were, ambitious, that would be 1 serving. But no, you could share this with like, 3 other, family members or people, you enjoy sharing meals with. Yeah, it's a great dish. I don't know, what you've done in terms of alternatives for chips, Chef AJ, but typically, in restaurants, they serve ceviche with like, tortilla chips and things like that. And, not everything is made out of wheat. Sometimes it can be made out of corn, blue corn, whole grain chips you can do. So, and that's optional, obviously, so. But yeah, it's a great dish. I like doing dishes that are meant to serve, coming from a Asian and Chinese background. It's all about sharing. It's all about family style. And for me, that kind of hits home even more, especially during our time right now, of wanting more connection and wanting more to be with people and to connect, you know what I'm saying? And so even if you're sequestered by yourself, you could, use technologies like Zoom, like what we have, to be able to cook a meal, but just virtually, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't have to be limited with just yourself. So yeah, so that's the recipe. I hope you guys enjoy that. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Well, great. If you might answer just a couple more questions that I'm seeing in the chat.
Yep.
How long would it last in the refrigerator?
Oh, this could last for a little bit. So I probably wouldn't, maybe no more than 72 hours. The citrus acid makes it, very, very sustainable. So, but I would consume it less than like 72 hours.
Right. Susan is suggesting baked jicama chips. And of course, you can make air fried tortillas in the air fryer or just bake them, and they're super crunchy without oil. So that's amazing.
Yep.
Oh, Sid says, does it get tossed up or do you just kind of dig in?
So you toss it up. So you toss it up and then, you just kind of let it marinate. I would say the recipe calls for 6 limes, definitely do more than that, you know what I'm saying? Because, depending on the dish that you're, serving in or you're just marinating in, you want it to hit everything, I just, literally just grabbed this because it was the closest thing to me. But yeah, you can toss it up, because you want all the flavors and juices and all the other ingredients just kind of mixed up together. It does look like a salad, but it's meant to be eaten as like a traditional ceviche, you know what I'm saying? And you'd be surprised for people that are actually familiar with traditional seafood ceviche. They'd be surprised on, the cauliflower. And, you can do this by skipping the boiling process and the ice bath process, but it actually helps to give it a little bit more of a, how should I say, al dente bite to it if you do it. So, I would recommend going through, the boiling process. So.
That's great. Cheryl says she loves the recipe. She might add some chopped cilantro to it.
Yep. That's what I did, is added the cilantro to it. So.
And people are asking if you can share your smoothie recipe, what you have in the morning, and what do you eat the rest of the day?
So my base smoothies is, I put a banana in. I put a couple of my favorite apples are Fiji apples, and I have flax seeds. I have chia seeds in there. Let me see what else. I have 2 lemons. I don't juice the lemons. I actually throw the entire lemon in there. I just head and tail them. I cut the heads and tails, and I even leave the peel in it because I have a Vitamix, so it just blends it up because a lot of the vitamins is actually in the peel. So that's my base. And then the half, if I take like a 2-quart, container of the Vitamix, half of that, I would just do like salad greens, a mix of salad greens or, different types of like, arugula and spinach and kale and, just increasing as much serving as possible. And if you want to sweeten it up, I know Chef AJ, you love dates. You can throw in a couple of dates in there, and the Fiji apples actually sweeten it pretty nicely. And you're not juicing it, you know what I'm saying? Because you're including all that fiber within the skin in it. And just kind of adjust it to how your palate is, it is, oh, and I throw in ginger and garlic in there as well. Those are part of my foundation to every smoothie. So.
Wow, garlic in a smoothie. Now that's interesting.
Oh yeah, it's definitely very refreshing because garlic, as you know, like you love garlic and you love onions. I remember you telling me this. And, there's a lot of power that comes from raw garlic. You might not want to kiss your, significant other, immediately afterwards, but, there's a lot of great antiviral bacterial properties that come with garlic, especially raw. And so like, the ginger helps to kind of, tame down the rawness of, the food as well. And plus Asian cuisines, we use ginger in everything. So, yeah, that will help you immensely. So that's kind of like my go-to for smoothies.
Wow. Lauren says, isn't the lemon peel sour?
It's sour by itself, but when it's combined with everything else, you're not going to taste it. Trust me, you're not going to taste it.
Wow. So I'm guessing the smoothie holds you for a few hours. What's the rest of the day like?
The rest of the day, so I mainly eat twice a day. I don't eat breakfast. I'm not much of a breakfast person, and I practice intermittent fasting. So I only eat twice a day. And so my evenings could be, anywhere from like, just like a soup, a gumbo. I like to use a slow cooker a lot. And a lot of sauteing, a lot of, stir frying, sauteing dishes, things like that. And, I love dabbling in a lot of ethnic foods. In LA, there's a great, Ethiopian community here, a lot of, Latin communities here, a lot of Asian communities here. So we're very lucky in that way because it's very diverse. So I like to kind of dabble. But, growing up with my parents, most of my dishes are, Asian inspired. But I do like to kind of reach across and try different things as well. I'm more of a savory guy. So, anything that is very heartwarming and, comforting, I tend to gravitate towards.
That's so interesting. Have you been to Rahel's in Los Angeles? It's Ethiopian restaurant.
No, not that one in particular. I forget what it's called. I think I forget. I think it's Rosalium or Rosalind is the one that I went to. So, but it's in Little Ethiopia. It's a great great spot there.
It's interesting that you say you're more of a savory guy, and I wonder how much of that is learned because in China in general, like you guys aren't known for like sickly sweet desserts.
No, no. If you actually go to an Asian supermarket, typically there's a bakery that's attached to the supermarket. A lot of the baked items are very, very subtle in terms of sweetness. You know what I'm saying? It's not very how do you say it? You know how you can get a brain freeze from drinking or eating something really cold? So to me, American pastries does that to me because I'm not a sweet guy. So it hits me really, really quick. But Asian pastries are actually they're more subtle in terms of like on the tongue. So yeah, we make a lot of custards. We make a lot of, cakes and things like that. Yeah, we have a lot of good bakeries in LA. So.
Right. Yeah, because in the United States, like buttercream frosting, everything is very sickly sweet. And I was a sugar addict for 43 years. And since I stopped eating sugar, I too prefer savory over sweet. It's like everything's too sweet now. Even sometimes California balsamic vinegar is too sweet.
Yeah, definitely. So you kind of have to ease your way into it and not get like a jolt, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I love savory everything. Everyone is different, so I can't go too long with something sweet. So I need to kind of, mix it up and stuff. So
right. There's a question in the chat. If you've ever tried to veganize a spanakopita recipe.
Veganize what?
Spanakopita.
I have no idea. What's that?
Greek dish it's got phyllo and cheese.
The spinach pie.
Yeah.
The spinach pie. Yeah. With the flaky crust, almost kind of like a croissant. It's like their version of a croissant, but they have like cheese. I think it's like feta cheese and spinach and stuff like that. I have not tried a veganized version of that, but I know it's. I'm sure it's really tasty. So.
Well, you can do that before our next interview. And last question, do you have a preferred foolproof way of cooking rice? Because I find, even though I love my beloved Instant Pot, I find for me, the rice cooker is always foolproof.
Yes. So we always swear by it, a good rice cooker. Typically for me, I do a combination of brown rice and quinoa together. That's usually when I'm on my own and cooking for the week, for example. That's usually my base for everything. So, quinoa is very good in absorbing flavors from a dish. So is brown rice. And so I just kind of combine them together. And I put that into the rice cooker or, I have a Ninja. I don't have an Instapot, but yeah, we have a rice cooker and we still make it the same exact way and it still comes out fine. So
when you're doing a mixed grain, do you press brown rice or white rice?
It's very simple. It has one button.
Okay.
And so we use the finger technique in terms of making sure that the water content is, sufficient, but it has one button. We're very old school.
It's foolproof then. Well, this has just been such a pleasure. I love watching a real chef cook and a chef doc even more so. And I can't wait till you're official with the plant-based telehealth and then people can have virtual consults with you.
Yeah. It'll be a pleasure seeing people virtually. I love seeing patients, in person to, really have that live interaction. But we, at this time, we want to practice as much safety, but, still not be able to limit our ways of communicating with each other.
Do you do any virtual cooking classes?
Classes, I do things like this where, I'm bouncing around at different conferences. But an actual class, like yourself, where you have live, nothing yet, but, definitely something on the radar. So.
Well, that sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much. I so love your work. And if you haven't checked out Dr. Zhu's podcast, please do. It's really wonderful. You actually recently interviewed my brother from another mother, Chef Ramses Bravo.
Yeah, he's great. I love him. I love his story. And he's a great individual as well.
Right, just like you, and just like all of you. And thank you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. We have a bonus show today. In about 2 hours, we have a vegan doctor or a plant-based doctor who was my doctor when I lived in LA, Dr. Roy Artal. He's triple board certified in internal medicine, sleep medicine, and pulmonary medicine. And he's going to be talking about some fascinating new research on sleep and Alzheimer's. Thanks again, Dr. Z. Take care.